Here's the thing about scary stories. Man, they get under your skin because they tap into something primal. We're not that far removed from sitting around campfires in the dark, listening for predators in the trees. You hear a branch snap in the woods at night? Your body doesn't care if it's a deer, your heart rate spikes because somewhere in your DNA it remembers that could have been a predator about to rip you apart. That's why scary stories hit so hard. They bypass logic and go straight to the survival part of your brain. That's the real horror. Your mind doesn't need proof. It just needs possibility. One sound, one shadow, and suddenly you're in fight or flight mode. That's why people love this shit. It's like simulated danger. Your body thinks you're about to die, but you're safe on your couch with popcorn. That contrast, that's addictive, man. That's why we tell scary stories. Mark lived alone in a quiet apartment where nothing ever happened. Nights were still, predictable, safe. But safety unravels quickly at 3 a.m. when the walls seem thinner, the silence heavier, and a knock comes at the door that no one should be standing behind. It started with a knock at 3 a.m. Soft, deliberate, echoing through the empty apartment. Mark froze in bed. No one should have been there. His front door was locked, his building quiet. The knock came again, louder. He forced himself up, every hair on his body rising. He peered through the peephole. Nothing. The hall was empty. Heart hammering, he turned back toward his bedroom, and that's when he saw it. A shadow stretched across the floor, long and crooked, though no one stood in the hall. Slowly, it crept toward his doorframe. Mark slammed the door shut, fumbling the locks. But the shadow seeped underneath, pouring across the floor like smoke. It rose, twisting into a tall, faceless figure. He stumbled back, whispering, "This isn't real." The figure tilted its head, and then it grinned, a mouth tearing open. He tried to scream, but no sound came. The thing's grin widened, teeth impossibly sharp. It leaned close, breath cold against his ear.
"I've always lived here,"
it whispered. The lights flickered, and in the moment of darkness, it vanished. Only the sound of breathing remained right beside him. Mark never slept the same again. Each night, he left the lights on, waiting for that knock. Weeks later, neighbors whispered about hearing footsteps in the hall at 3 a.m. Only difference, when they opened their doors, no one was there. But something had left its shadow behind. In the village, elders always warned, when the desert calls with lights, do not follow. The Jinn lure the curious into their domain. Hassan laughed at such tales until one restless night, when a lantern swayed beyond the dunes, and his curiosity burned brighter than his fear. Hassan grew up hearing his grandmother's warnings. Never follow lights in the desert. They belong to the Jinn. One night, restless, he saw a lantern swaying beyond the village palms. Against every warning, he followed, sand crunching underfoot as the glow drifted farther into the dunes. The desert grew silent, unnaturally so. No wind, no insects, only his own breathing. When he reached the spot, the lantern vanished. He turned to head back, but the sand behind him was covered in footprints circling him, though no one else was there. A low laugh echoed on the wind. From the shifting dunes, a figure rose, tall, impossibly thin, with burning eyes set deep in its face. It tilted its head, voice curling through the night. You followed. Hassan froze. The sand swallowed his feet as the figure stepped closer, smile splitting its face too wide, teeth jagged and sharp. He tried to pray, words sticking in his throat. The lantern reappeared, now in his hand, glowing with a fire that wasn't his. The figure leaned close, its whisper colder than the desert night. Now you carry the light. Now you lead. Behind him, more shadows stirred, waiting to follow. Hassan was never seen again. Days later, searchers found only his sandals buried in the sand and a lantern still burning beside them. Some say the light wasn't fire, but something older, something alive. To this day, travelers avoid that stretch of desert when night falls. Liam never feared shortcuts. The city's alleys were familiar. Routine, just cracked bricks and old graffiti. But on that cold night, when the streetlights flickered and footsteps echoed behind him, he realized some paths don't just cut time. They cut straight into danger. Liam cut through the alley after work, ignoring the uneasy knot in his stomach. The streetlights above flickered, throwing shadows across graffiti-stained walls. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate. He quickened his pace, but the steps matched him closer, heavier. A voice called out, sharp and mocking, "Hey, where you going?" 3 men stepped from the shadows, blocking the exit. One twirled a knife casually, the steel glinting under the broken light. Wallet, phone, now. Liam's throat dried. His hands shook as he fumbled for his pocket. He handed everything over, praying they'd leave, but the man with the knife smiled. Not enough. He pressed the blade against Liam's chest, the point pricking through his shirt. The others laughed. Their shadows stretched across the brick, tall and monstrous, trapping him in. Then sirens wailed nearby. The men froze. In a blink, they scattered into the dark, leaving Liam trembling in the alley. He collapsed, clutching the shallow cut on his chest, phone and wallet gone. The worst part wasn't what they took. It was knowing how close they came to taking everything. Liam never used the alley again, but the memory lingered, sharper than the knife's edge. Nights were never quiet anymore. Every footstep behind him felt heavier. Every shadow stretched too long. They hadn't just stolen his wallet. They'd stolen the city's promise of safety forever. Eddie wasn't afraid of ghosts. He was addicted to them. While others chased highs in smoke or pills, Eddie hunted shadows and whispers, craving the chill of the unseen. But every addiction demands a price. And Eddie was about to learn some hauntings don't let you walk away. Eddie wasn't hooked on drugs. He was hooked on the paranormal. Haunted houses, cursed objects, abandoned hospitals. If it promised a ghost, he was there. His friends called him reckless, but Eddie craved the rush. Fear was his needle, and the unknown was his vein. One night, he found a forgotten asylum on the outskirts of town. Locals swore the patients never left, their screams still echoing in the halls. Perfect. With only a flashlight and recorder, Eddie slipped inside. The air was damp, heavy, and every step echoed like a warning. He asked the darkness for a sign. The recorder crackled. A voice rasped, "Stay." His flashlight flickered, revealing a figure at the end of the corridor, thin, pale, eyes hollow. He staggered back, heart racing. This was no high, no thrill. This was something hungry. The figure glided closer, mouth opening far too wide. Shadows poured out, crawling along the walls. Eddie dropped the recorder, but the voice followed him, now inside his head.
"You wanted us. Now you're ours."
When they found his gear later, the recorder was still playing Eddie's screams. They found Eddie's gear scattered in the asylum, his recorder still running. No one ever found him, but if you play the tape, his voice is there, screaming, begging, before another voice, low, rasping, drowns him out. Some say the asylum finally got a patient who never leaves. The farmhouse stood empty for decades, its windows dark, its halls silent. Locals whispered of footsteps, of voices drifting at night. But Sarah wasn't afraid of old wood or ghost stories. To her, it was just a bargain. To the house, it was a chance to be lived in again. When Sarah bought the farmhouse, she laughed at the rumors. Locals said it was haunted, that strange noises came from the upstairs rooms. To her, it was just old wood and creaky floors. On the first night, she settled in, certain the only thing she'd hear was the wind. But around midnight, the floorboards above groaned. Heavy, deliberate steps crossed the ceiling. Sarah froze. No one else was there. She grabbed a lamp and climbed the stairs, her breath fogging though the air was still. At the end of the hall, her bedroom door shut earlier now stood wide open. Inside, the mirror on the dresser dripped with condensation. A large handprint smeared across the glass, far too big to be hers. The lamp flickered, plunging the room in and out of shadow. In one flash of light, she saw a pale figure standing behind her in the reflection. She spun around, nothing. But the whisper came soft and close, brushing her ear. "Welcome home." Sarah fled the house that night, never to return. Locals say the upstairs window still glows faintly at night, as if someone is waiting there for the next person foolish enough to move in. Sarah never returned, but the house waited. Some nights, travelers swear they see a pale face in the upstairs window watching the road. Others hear a whisper when they pass the gate, "Welcome home." The farmhouse doesn't want owners. It wants company, and it always gets it. Man, that story, that's the thing about the paranormal. It's not just creepy for fun. There are people who swear they've felt it, seen it, experienced it, and science can't fully explain it yet. You sit there thinking, it's just my imagination. But your body reacts like it's real. Heart pounding, hair standing on end. That's the point, whether it's a shadow in the corner, a whisper in the dark, or something that makes your chest feel like it's being pressed down. It's real to your brain. And maybe, just maybe, that thing exists outside your perception, waiting for you to notice it. That's why you don't want to ignore it. Because curiosity, that's how people get drawn in. And once you've seen it, once it's touched you in some way, your world doesn't feel the same again. And that, my friends, is what keeps us coming back for